Good evening, everybody. Welcome to GM Chat with Mike and Jeff. How's it going, everybody?
Tweedledum and Tweedledummer.
Yeah, but which is which?
Yet to be determined.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. But we are, as always, monitoring Twitch chat. We're also monitoring our Discord server, so feel free to shoot us comments or questions at any point throughout the show. We're happy to make you part of the show and answer the questions.
Right.
Couple quick announcements. We are still supporting the Wildland Firefighter Foundation. They provide aid and relief for families of firefighters who have been injured or killed in the line of duty. And while the firefighters or the wildfires are slowly coming under control, they help firefighters across the United States, so there's always a need. So if you can help, go to our website, www.artifactsworldwide.com. The link is right there at the bottom of the front page. And anything you can donate will be greatly appreciated by us and even more so by them. The other announcement is...
thereof.
Yes. The other announcement is we, of course, are still taking votes on what will be the MMORPG that we focus on for board remotely. That's also on our website, artifactsworldwide.com. Currently, it is a 2-game contest at the moment between Secret World Legends and World of Warcraft. Secret World Legends is currently in the lead, but we do have 2 other options on there. We have, Neverwinter Nights and Defiance are the 4 that we're looking at, and we're just curious to see what you think. Maybe you've played one of them and you absolutely don't like it, in which case, vote for one of the other ones. Maybe you've played one of the other ones and you absolutely love it. Vote for that one. But we'd appreciate your input on that. All right, tonight we're going to talk about something that's never fun, unless it's pre-planned and everybody involved knows ahead of time. That's the only time that it might be fun. But any other time, not going to be fun. And that, of course, is dealing with the death of a character in a role-playing game.
Yep.
This can really mess up a gaming session, to put it mildly.
But it need not, in actuality. When you're angry because your character died, that can ruin the session for sure.
Or really, really sad.
Yeah.
Like, you've developed a real emotional attachment with that character, and suddenly that character is gone.
Well, and the other players might grieve as well. I mean...
Yeah, absolutely. I was doing some reading, seeing what some other GMs had said today, and I ran across one thing. I don't know, are you familiar with the Angry GM?
The Angry GM. It sounds familiar. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's theangrygm.com, but he was talking about this very topic and came up with something that I decided I wanted to quote because I think it frames everything really nicely for what we're going to talk about tonight. He says there are basically 3 types of character deaths, and he did them like degree burns. So the worst one is the highest one, and that's the Class 3 death. The death that the players blame on the game master. Like, yes. Rocks fall, everybody dies.
Yes.
Okay. Class... Oh, go ahead.
It's legitimate.
Yep. Class 2 death are the deaths that everyone can agree are really based on bad luck, bad die rolls, or just a series of unfortunate events.
Right.
That people aren't happy about it, but they're kind of like, yeah, I can see how this happened.
Right.
Class 1 deaths are the ones where the players themselves can go, yeah, here's the stupid thing that I did that caused that death.
Right.
So,
I don't know the percentages on that. I don't know the statistics, but as a highly experienced player and game master, I would say probably easily 70% falls in the class one category.
yeah. Yeah.
Players either get restless or bored, or some actually try to set out to kill their characters.
Sure. If they've decided, yeah,
But
I'm really not having any fun playing this character on a new one.
right. So yeah, they will do something dumb or uh, charge headlong into something because they're tired of waiting. They will Leroy Jenkins, essentially.
Yep.
Uh, Guilty. I've done that.
Sure.
It's
Me
like,
too.
I don't care. Let's get the game going. I want to roll dice.
Right.
You know.
Right. Yeah. And, it's one of those things where I had a character who was a cleric of Finder, and Finder is a deity from like 3rd edition Forgotten Realms. He is a demigod who is the patron of reckless adventurers.
Mm.
And I had gotten this character all the way up to 16th level, and then embracing sort of the tenets of his deity, he charged into battle and got disintegrated.
What got him? Just a spell, or was it like
Yeah.
a beholder's?
No. A mage with a disintegration spell.
So,
And the thing is that they tried to resurrect me and it failed. And my DM basically said, well, you worship the god of reckless adventurers and you went out being a reckless adventurer, so clearly your god wants to keep you with him now.
that's fair. I like that.
And while now I look back on it and say, yeah, that makes perfect sense. At the time, I was pissed.
No doubt.
Because, 16 levels. I've been playing that character for like 3 years.
Yeah.
Every Saturday, almost without fail, for 3 years. And suddenly, one bad saving throw and boom, gone. Gone, gone, gone. Everything he had on him, gone, gone, gone. So, yeah, I wasn't terribly happy.
Things that make you swear.
Yes. But looking at it from a game master point of view, there's a few things I was thinking about that I think we need to talk about, because I think maybe it's because we're in a society that has sort of normalized cheat codes.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people play games and they'll just turn on God mode and run through the whole thing. And so they're just in it for the story and the entertainment, and there's really no risk. And they get to the end and they're like, I am mighty and awesome. And then they get into a D&D game and they do something stupid, and their, 4th level rogue gets shot through the head and dies. And they're 4th level, so they can't bring him back. There's no way to afford to hire someone to bring them back. And they're like, man, this is stupid. Because we're used to, save points and reloading after we die, and,
Well, 5th edition is a lot more forgiving.
True.
For player deaths, but it's still certainly quite possible for a character to die.
Yeah.
So,
and I think one of the first rules that people need to understand if they're going to do this type of tabletop or, electronic role-playing is that characters below 20th level are not immortal, no matter what you think.
right.
They're just not. I mean, technically characters 20 and above aren't either, but it's harder to convince them of that.
Um, well, I think sometimes people mistake not aging with immortality,
Yeah,
because there are certain characters once they get to that high level just don't age or age very slowly.
right.
But you know,
Or you
they
have
can still be killed.
you have races like elves and dwarves who just
Sure,
naturally age very very slowly.
right. So that there's a big difference between immortality and, or I guess immortality isn't exactly the right word. I would call it uh, indestructible.
Yeah,
You know, but yep, it's still possible.
yeah. And one of the things that people need to realize as they go through this, as they go through a tabletop role playing game, is that in a video game, sure, if you get into a situation where you're over your head, if you saved right before you started it, you can just exit out, reload the save, and change your mind.
Okay.
In a tabletop
Yeah.
role playing game, you can't do that.
Oh,
And in fact, a good tabletop role playing game, your characters should not win them all
no.
because that's not a game, that's socially distributed masturbation.
Right.
That's really all it is.
That's one way to put it. But yeah, that's absolutely correct. If you're going to tell a story, there has to be ups and downs.
Yep.
You know, if your play style is uh, raid a dungeon and wreck them all, that's different. But if you want to run a narrative-driven story or campaign, it's got to have the highs and lows. You got to have the lows to make the highs uh, viable, and you know, have some meaning and purpose and triumph and a sense of victory. If you just win every time you go in, it's first of all not a very uh, uh, good story, and
Right.
second of all, it completely neuters the feeling of winning. Oh, we won again, of course.
Yep. Well, like last night on Lands of Acathan, the bad guys got away.
Right.
And, if you were doing a video game and the bad guys got away, you would just kind of go, oh, all right, well, we'll fight them later.
Yeah.
I'm sure. But in a tabletop role playing game, it could be you may fight them later or you may never see them again.
Right.
But it's a little bit more of an intense experience in a tabletop game because I think you tend to be a little bit more emotionally involved than you are in a video game.
Of course. Yeah.
The other thing that never made any sense to me, I never understood this because I was always of the mind of, no, this is absolutely a possibility. It stuns me how many people get into a role playing game and simply never consciously realize that running away is an option.
Mm-hmm.
You may be in over your head. And, in ideally a real situation, you might wander into a scenario where the people you're dealing with are much more powerful than you.
Now, um, that's a that's an interesting point you mentioned, because a DM has got to be very careful to tread that way,
Yeah.
um, because it can turn into the class 3
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Because most players, and I'm included in this, I think most players go into a situation feeling that they're fairly capable of handling the situation. Um, at least have a shot. Good dice rolls or something like that, they might actually pull it off.
Yep.
Um, so you got to be careful with that if you're DMing. Uh, on the other hand, and I've had this happen, I always try to tell my players I'm not going to put them in a situation that it's not possible for them to deal with. Now, if I bring an ancient red dragon down on your 6th level characters, you should kind of use your brain a little bit and understand. Okay, he's here for to give us some clue, or we're supposed to get there's something to the encounter other than combat,
Right.
because no,
No.
that it ain't happening.
No.
You know, um, so, but if you throw them up against a Goliath chieftain, barbarian, and he's carrying weaponry on him that you're not sure about, it looks pretty nasty. The players should probably take stock of it, but they're probably not going to look at it and say, oh, we better not fight this guy. They're going to be like, this is going to be a tough fight. That's what they're going into combat with. So that I'm just saying I said a lot to say that, you got to be careful as a GM
Yeah.
in putting them in that situation. Make
It,
it clear that they're not supposed to fight.
exactly. Exactly. You give them all the clues that they need to look at that situation and go, no. No, I don't think so. I don't think that's for us right now.
No.
That's probably for like another 3 levels or 4 or 8,
Yeah.
But here's the thing. What do you do if you give them all the clues? You give them all the warnings and they charge ahead anyway.
Then it turns into a class 1 death.
Yeah. 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 And that's the thing too, you have to kind of realize, if you are, and I don't know, I mean, a lot of DMs probably would go, no, I would modify the encounter, but if you're loyal to your world and to the continuity of what you've created, you have to then just run the encounter.
Well, yeah, but there are still options a DM has. If it were me, go back to my red dragon thing.
Right.
And they're like, ooh, can you imagine how much loot he's got? Let's kill him and take his treasure. And they come after the dragon. Here's how I would handle it. The dragon watches them run up to him with their weapons. And he's, because they're chaotic evil, but still chaotic. So they go on their whims. And he decides this is going to be hilarious. And he doesn't move. He doesn't try to dodge. He doesn't try to fight or swing or do anything like that. He just stands there and lets them wail on him and have them go at it. You get to attack with advantage, go for it. Because even if they roll a natural 20, they're 25 or even 40 points of damage isn't really going to matter that much to the dragon, and he's just going to look at them. Are you done? And that's how you can handle that situation.
Yeah, or maybe have a massive claw come out and go. And
or if you really want to make a statement,
tumbling.
Yeah, if you really want to make a statement, truly, if somebody does roll that natural 20, have the dragon kill that person, kill them instantly, immediately, because he can.
Yep.
And then have him look at the rest of the party. No. And carry on. So that's if you need to make a point. If they're being stupid and they're being cocky and obnoxious, that's a good way to knock them down a couple of pegs. And in that case, I think it's okay for the class 3 death.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, another
But
option would
otherwise, it was
be, you know, if there were NPCs or guards,
right.
you know, like, you know, say that a red dragon, you know, this red dragon landed at Thunder's Edge, and the Cathan army forces and the Rakeliad forces all rallied with the PCs to go after this dragon, and the dragon simply looks at them and breathes once and incinerates all of the Cathan army folks. Just ash. And then looks at the rest of them like,
Who's next?
mm-hmm. Do you want to continue, or would you like to talk?
Right. So yeah, you know, there are ways of, and I hate using this word, but it's the only one. There are ways for a DM to manipulate their players to taking the appropriate course of action, and not the idiot.
Well, and I will say this as a GM, if you have a group of players that continually just do stupid shit, find a different group of players. I mean,
Yeah,
you don't need that level of headache in your life.
Well, I mean, that's certainly an option. I think what I would do is just continually kill their characters. Or I wouldn't kill them. They would kill themselves.
Right. Just continually
like,
let them commit suicide by monster.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they'll either get a kick out of it, or they will get mad and quit, or they will change how they do things in the future.
Right.
It's so however it works out. But now I say manipulate players, but what I mean by that is behavior modification.
Yeah.
Not character modification, player modification. And you can teach them that stuff. You name me one experienced player who, when they hear their DM say something like, make a perception roll, and they roll and they say, okay, I got a 16. Well, you don't seem to see anything. When they hear a phrase turned like that, they're like, beep, 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 beep. They know there's something going on.
Right.
And that's
shit. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's an experienced player who's had a GM who has modified their behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Because they know nothing's free.
Right. Right. So
yes.
Let's look at it from the player's point of view. Say it's a class 2. Mm-hmm. Just a night where everything went wrong. I mean, and it could have been last night.
Yeah.
For
sure.
a Cathan, there was one roll that if it had gone the other way, Zorth would have died.
Yep, and it was a 50-50 shot.
Yep. So, I mean, we were right there. And a bad die roll could have made the whole story different.
And the end of it.
And, so then you have to start looking at options. First off, can the character be brought back? And you were saying that 5th edition is much more forgiving in that aspect, and this is one of the ways, is the way that it handles death. The idea that when you drop to 0 hit points, you then get death saves, and you can, that's a straight 50-50 shot, and you can either wake up with 1 hit point or die, but it takes, a series of rolls. And
Sure.
even if you do die, fifth edition is the edition where you have the earliest opportunity at bringing someone back from actual death.
Yes.
Because it used to be in like third edition, it was you had to be fifth level. You had to have fifth level spells, so you had to be ninth level in order to cast Raise Dead.
Yep.
And Raise Dead brought you back with 1 hit point, and you had to spend a week of bed rest. Like, no magical healing would help. You had to spend a week of bed rest before you could actually function again. Now, in 5th edition, you've got Revivify, that is a 3rd level spell.
Right.
So you only need to be...
them within a minute.
Right. But you also have Gentle Repose, which if you can cast that spell, then you have like 10 days to bring this person back or find someone to bring this person back. And then, you know, you've got Resurrection, you've got True Resurrection.
Sure, sure.
You know, so they've made it a little bit easier to not have to roll up a new character.
Mm-hmm.
But then what do you do if you can't bring them back? What if you don't have a character that can cast Gentle Repose or Revivify?
Right.
What if you are in a position...
You're in the wrong party.
Yeah, what if you're in a position in your current campaign where you just can't get back to someplace in time?
Yeah.
And this is the
part... You know, higher levels you get, the easier it is
sure
to come by that sort of magic. But,
sure.
You know,
but, you know, like the level we're at in a Cathan.
Yeah, that's sticky because they don't have a whole crap ton of money.
No.
I mean, they're not hurting, but they don't have a whole bunch of money. They certainly don't have enough to get a resurrection done.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. And so then you have the question of, well, all right, then what do we do? You know? And one of the things that really sucks about that point in the process is the player realizing that they're out of the game for a little while. You know, I mean, even if they are eventually going to get brought back, they're still out of the game for a little while. They don't have any direct participation in the campaign until such time as they're brought back. Right. But, you know, if they can't be brought back, then, you know, that's when things, I think, get bad for everybody. Because from a player point of view, the player whose character died is now out of the game for a while. Until they come up with a new character and they and the game master figure out how they're going to introduce that character and bring that character in and get that character into the group. The rest of the players, any storylines they had with the character that died are now completely fucked. And for the GM, any storylines you had involving said character are now just so much, paper to use to start a campfire.
So, here's my retort to that, and it's simply this. A character death, not a player death.
A player death, I can't even imagine. I've read about that too.
Yeah, a character death should be an opportunity, especially if you're telling a narrative campaign. You know, if it's very heavily story driven. Nothing creates drama like a death.
Yeah.
it's wonderful, fertile storytelling ground.
Sure.
Yeah, your plans before involving this character might be out the window, but it opens up a whole new thing. And the gold standard, let's go back to Critical Role.
Sure.
Look what Matt Mercer is doing with the death of Molly in the campaign.
Yeah.
Spoiler alerts. You know what I mean? Completely whole brand new way of using that character's death to tell a story. Um, and look how it's affecting all of the players,
Yeah.
you know, and all the characters. It's fantastic, fantastic
Yeah.
stuff.
I mean, he's come up with a new way to tackle that. It's not so much death of body, but death of personality, like death of
Yes.
identity, because the body of Molly is still running around,
Yep.
but doesn't seem to be Molly
No.
anymore. And
So,
I've never encountered that particular twist before.
and so that's what I'm saying is, yeah, it sucks, but it's such an opportunity, not just for the DM, but for the players as well, for the characters, other characters.
Yeah.
Um,
But let me put it this way. Ideally, yes, you're absolutely right. You should look at it as an opportunity. But pick any one of the other 3 players in a Cathan right now and tell me how they would respond to the death of their character.
oh, they would come unglued.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, for
And
sure.
that if you have people who get attached to their characters and, in a good game, they're going to get attached to their characters.
Absolutely.
The third edition game that I'm still playing in, I'm quite attached to my level 13 half drow ranger. I mean, he and I have gone through a lot getting him
Mm-hmm.
to that level. We've been playing that campaign for a number of years. I would be a little unhinged if he died at this point and they couldn't bring him back.
Yep. 13th level though, he's they probably can get him back. But nevertheless, at this point in our game, if one of us died, like if Zorith died, I don't know. I don't know what Arabelle has in her arsenal. There may be something she could have done, but
As a
yeah,
paladin, I don't think there is.
I know she has spare the dying.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure what that does. But
I think if you cast it, anybody who's making death saves automatically is stabilized at 1 hit point. I think. I mean, I could look it up,
but she may also have revivify. I don't know.
Not at this level. She's only got 2nd level spells. Unless she might have gentle repose.
Possibly.
But I don't think she'd have revivify. I don't even know if paladins get revivify.
Yeah, I don't know. But at any rate, if one of us did die,
Yeah,
and permadeath, I think of all of us, I would probably take it the best.
yep,
Because I mean, I've been doing it a long time. I've had plenty of characters die. I've got a lot invested in Airman right now. I have a lot of plans in the future for Airman. And he has a fantastic story arc I have in mind. But if he dies, it's going to suck, but I think it'll probably suck more for the others than it will me.
Yeah.
But yeah, because everybody knows it's no secret. I've already got a couple of characters waiting in the wings in case that happens.
Right.
So, um, it's not, I mean, there are circumstances that would, he certainly could die. I think the way we have the group dynamic set up, the rest of them would probably die before he would. Um, but I don't know, anything can happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so how would you counsel one of the other three if their character died? I mean, how would you help them get through it?
Well, I think what I would do is speak to them privately after the game, and I would say, okay, look, um, this kind of sucks, but how can we work this into the game, and what can we do? What maybe did you have in mind anything for this eventuality, or can you come up with something?
Right.
Give them, give them something to sort of, uh, I can't think of the phrase, but something that they can give them
Something that
closure.
something that they can focus their attention on other than
Right, right. But tell them to come up with something. Give them an epilogue for the character. What is going to happen with their affairs now that they're gone?
Right.
You know, and in the afterlife, where do they end up? What happens to them? And if you have any ideas, or if you think of any ideas about something that was in their backstory that I might be able to pull in later, give me an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Just to get them still, so they're not just flat out cut off from their character. They can wrap it up. They can tie up the character. You know what I mean?
Right.
So give them something like that to work on, is I think what I would do.
I ran across an interesting idea in my research for this topic today, and it's not anything that I've ever thought of, but now that I've read it, I'm going, okay, so would there ever be a time for this? The idea of a GM making a decision to kill a particular character for the good of the overall storyline.
I'm not in favor of that. If the player came to me and said, "Hey, look, I think this would be a great idea for the benefit of the entire narrative, the story, if we just killed my character." When if they came to me and said something like that and wanted to do something, awesome, we can do it, and it will be spectacular. But to decide on my own to make that decision, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't target or mark a character for the benefit of the story. There's other stories you could tell without having to do that.
Yeah. Have you ever had a player do that? Have you ever had a player come to you and say, "Yeah, let's off my person"?
Wow.
Because I haven't.
I don't think that I have. No. But I would be very excited if I had a player do something like that, unless I felt that maybe it wasn't. I don't know. If the only reason there's only a couple of reasons a player would do that. One is they think it would be super cool to do, or two, they were tired of playing that character, or it wasn't quite what they wanted to play.
Right.
Um, so in either of those cases, I think, yeah, that would be cool to do, but I wouldn't do it, just make that decision as a game master to kill a character off just to move along the story. Mm.
I also came across another interesting idea that I started thinking about, and I was like, oh, yeah, probably. Does setting change the social rules for character deaths? Like, okay, in D&D, you always know that's a possibility. But let's say you're not playing Dungeons and Dragons, you're playing villains and vigilantes. So you're playing superheroes, and everybody knows in comic books nobody ever stays dead. So does that sort of change the impact both with the characters and the players based on a different setting? You're muted. Alt A.
There we
Oh,
go.
there you go.
All right.
Yep.
Must have hit a button or something.
Yeah, must have.
Um, the answer is, of course, yes. There's always variables that can alter that paradigm. Um, a good example of what I'm talking about, uh, of a game that I ran, uh, that you actually played in, was when I decided to run a Terminator game.
Yeah.
And the setting for that was the war at its height
Mm-hmm.
between humans and Skynet, where the humans had organized and were fighting back against the machines. Beginning of that game, I had everyone roll up 3 different characters because of party attrition.
Yep.
It was expected there were going to be multiple deaths, and there were.
Yep. But see,
So
everybody went into that game knowing that
exactly,
people were going to die.
yes,
It wasn't a possibility, it was an inevitability.
exactly. And so in that's an extreme example, but that's an example where the environment, the situation can alter the impact on player deaths or character deaths.
Yeah.
Character deaths.
And then I was thinking about this, a setting like Vampire, where technically everybody's already dead.
Yeah, that's true. But death in that game is, again, an inevitability for everyone, I think, ultimately.
Yeah.
The vampire themselves, like you say, are already dead, but there are different things that can happen to their characters besides final death.
Right.
They can be put into torpor, which might as well be dead.
Sure.
Because the player will no longer be able to play the character until they come out of torpor. And then, of course, there's final death, and there are multiple ways that can occur.
Sure.
And it's nearly instantaneous.
Yeah.
So I think in that game, that's a good game because the threat of death is so absolute that players are a lot more cautious. They're not as reckless.
Right.
You know, if you decide you want to take on another vampire, you don't know how powerful that vampire is. You know, they could be thousands of years old. You would never know it.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to play more carefully and more cautiously. But that game isn't a combat driven game anyway.
Right.
You know, it's a narrative driven game. There is combat in it, but it's more of a storytelling game. But that kind of leads me to a point that I wanted to cover in this too is I know there are some game masters that will run a game that has very little combat in it, but when they run the combat, it's extremely dangerous. And they do that for a reason. Because most people try to avoid getting into combat, into conflict,
Sure.
especially to the death conflict. And the reason they try to avoid that is because it's very possible you could die.
Right.
So they run their combat that way. You know, it's very dangerous to go into combat. So the players will try to avoid those situations whenever possible. And if they do fight, it's serious and they take it seriously. It's not, oh, we killed another orc, you know. So that's another dynamic where the players genuinely fear their characters could die if they go into combat. And I think that's kind of a fun way of doing it, especially if you're going to do a story-driven game. You know.
Yeah. And then you look at the other different settings, like Deadlands.
Yeah.
It would seem to me that death is a pretty common occurrence in Deadlands.
Right. Yeah.
Having not played it, only seen it played, but I'm guessing.
Yeah.
You know, you look at if it was like a spy espionage setting. Look at all the Jason Bourne movies.
Sure.
People die right and left.
Yeah.
You know, the death count in those movies usually goes well into double digits, sometimes into triple digits in, 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
If you were doing, steampunk carries its own perils because dealing with steam as a power source, steam is a volatile power source.
Of course.
And if a boiler explodes, you're probably going to die.
Yep.
So I would expect in steampunk there's probably at least as much as in a D&D game, if not a little more. You know, you look at something like Gamma World, where you're dealing with, science fiction equipment as relics, and you're dealing with all sorts of radiation and mutation, and you never know what's coming. I always think about that. It was like an AD&D monster that looked like a bunny sitting on a stump. And when you got close, the mouth on the stump opened up like this, and that's a very Gamma World type monster.
Right.
But
so, holy smoke, how did it get to be that late?
well, we've been talking.
Yeah. You do what you love, time will fly. as Jeff found out earlier today.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, quick side note, beware Baldur's Gate 3. It will suck you in. It totally did me. Started playing about 11 o'clock, looked up, and it was 6:30 tonight. And I went, oh, I have other stuff to do. Oops. Yeah. But
So what else can we talk about on this subject?
I don't know. Basically, I will just say I'm very, very glad that we didn't have to deal with a character death last night. Because I guarantee I would not have been playing anything all day today.
Yeah.
I would have been on Messenger all day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I expect if it had been Arabelle who died, your day would have been very interesting.
Yes. Most interesting.
Because I am inadvertently responsible for the only character death that Pam's ever experienced, and that was off camera.
Yeah, but that was foregone before the game started, so it wasn't that big of a deal.
Right. Yeah. For those who may not know, we did a play test in a Cathan using characters from the game we had been playing in Mike's World. We just sort of had them be like, alternate prime material counterparts in a Cathan. And,
Yep.
just to sort of test stuff out. Oh, excuse me. Nikki says, I wouldn't have been on Messenger all day. Okay, what would you have used? Just kidding. But yeah, she'd have been upset.
She'd have flew up here and kicked your butt. That's what she would have done.
That is entirely possible. And
That's funny.
I'm trying to think. I don't know. I'd have to ask, but I don't know if Annette's ever had a character die in a game.
Boy, I sure have.
Probably because, everybody's scared of what she'd do to them if they killed her character. But that's just
Heck,
my take on it.
I've had a 20th level character die before.
I
mean, it's not a big deal, but
was it a one shot or was it an actual campaign?
well, it was a one shot of characters that we had been in a campaign with.
Ah, okay.
Marcus.
Nikki says, whatever. Upset? Yes, but consolable. So noted. Next time, kill Zorith. Got it.
Yeah, see, and it wouldn't be that big of a deal.
No. So she's the safe get.
Right.
As a storyteller, that's now in my head. I'm not sure that's what she wanted.
You're going to pay for that.
Yes, I should say I'm just kidding. I don't plan anybody's death. So.
Well, I have no intention of ever coming to you and saying, yeah, just kill off Airman because I want to try something else out. I won't do that. I got too many cool stuff.
Yeah, and cool you and I have already talked about, the next phase in Airman's evolution, so.
Right.
I've already started to work that into my plans. So, yeah, I don't want to see him disappear.
Right.
I'm already starting to make cool plans for him.
That's awesome because that means I get cool stuff to do with my character.
Yeah.
But
Well, it started last night,
Yeah, I
right at
noticed.
the end.
Started from my end too.
Yes. Yes. All right. Well, so I think we've about plumbed the topic as much as we're gonna get.
Pretty much put that last nail in the coffin.
Yeah,
See
we've
what I
pretty
did there?
much killed that particular character discussion. Uh,
Yeah, I really dig that.
uh, but remember, it can have grave consequences.
Oh, nice.
I will not declare pun war because we're done.
All right.
Otherwise, I would have thrown my hands in the air and thrown my head back and yelled it at the top of my lungs. But
So, well, I hope anyone who may be listening finds this useful.
Yep.
Some way.
Yeah. And remember, if you're watching this later on after we've finished streaming it here on Twitch, or if you're watching on YouTube, if you've got a comment or a question, or just want to tell us that we're all full of shit, feel free. We don't ever claim to have all the right ideas. We just have our ideas.
Right.
So
Correct. And also remember our Discord, because I keep that on and on my desktop, and I'm always on my computer. So,
yep, same here.
I will definitely keep tabs on it. So that would be a good place if you have any questions, comments. That's a good place to go to.
Yep. And please remember to like and subscribe both here on Twitch and on YouTube. If you like the episode, give us the thumbs up on YouTube. That would be great.
Tell other people about it.
Yes, absolutely.
Friends.
And all right, that brings us to a close of this week's live programming, but we'll be back on Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern U.S. time for Board Remotely, and Sunday we're going to check out another one of the contenders for our chosen MMORPG. We're going to be playing Neverwinter Nights.
Fun.
Yep.
I look forward to that one.
Yeah, I like it. It's a lot of fun. It's definitely a lot more fun with other people.
I imagine it is.
But, yeah, it's a blast. Although I will admit I've never tried it with 4 people. I've run it solo and with one other person.
Well, we'll see.
This should be interesting. But anyway, that's all for us for this evening. Remember, stay safe, stay sane. Please wear your mask. Hopefully you didn't go anywhere for Thanksgiving. If you did, I hope you didn't catch it.
Or give it to anyone.
Right. So, just be smart about it. I mean, we're gamers. We should be smart about stuff like this. Think of what would your lawful good character do in a situation like this? Do that.
What would your lawful smart character do? That's a better way of thinking.
Yes. Yeah, your character has an 18 intelligence and an 18 wisdom. What did they do in a situation like this? So, all right. Hopefully you'll be able to join us on Sunday for Board Remotely. Remember, we also have a new episode of Player Chat next Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern U.S. time. Tuesday is the next episode of Lands of Acathan, where we basically get to deal with the fallout from this week and the dinner party at the same time. So that's going to be that's going to be a joy, I'm sure. And then Mike and I will be back next Wednesday night for another episode of GM Chat. So
we will.
Until then, good night, everybody.